Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, welcome to Be My Guest, and Happy New Year coming up. We just had Christmas yesterday, and we've opened our studio today for Be My Guest for a very special guest. Many of you, I think, remember her. She's been on, how many times?
At least 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joni Mayhan. We call her our residential paranormal investigator and author. Welcome back, Joni.
Thank you for having me.
And Joni has moved from this area. She moved to Indiana. We had to scoop her up. You're leaving tomorrow to go back to Indiana.
I am.
You can't go. You've got to stay here. How did I first hear about you? Do you remember?
I don't even know. It just, you contacted me. You'd heard about me probably through the Victorian Mansion in Gardner.
Yeah.
Because I wrote that book, Bones in the Basement. I think that was the first one we did.
And she has another book out for all of you aficionados, Haunted New Harmony. Haunted New Harmony, and that New Harmony, or is it Harmony or New Harmony where you moved?
New Harmony.
In Indiana. This is the newest one. And I'm going to donate my copy when I'm through downstairs to the library. So if you'd like to borrow it, go for it. Joni, before we get going, people who are real big fans, how can they go ahead and get this online?
Oh, the book is available on Amazon.com, and you can also contact me at jonimayhan@gmail.com if you're looking for a signed author copy. I'd be happy to send you one through the mail.
Now, this book is about the different areas and facilities in New Harmony that are, you feel, paranormal.
The entire town has such a unique history. It's the site of 2 utopian societies back in the early 1800s. And so the history and the hauntings are really unavoidable. Anytime you have really old, beautiful buildings like that that have been lovingly restored and preserved over the years, a lot of times the ghosts stick around and stay, and that's the situation here. When I first moved there, I was really amazed at how many ghosts there were in every building. It was so much more saturated than anywhere else I'd been, and I'd spent 30 years in Massachusetts. So for me to go to a little town in southern Indiana and discover so many ghosts in all these old buildings, it really intrigued me.
What made you go out there to that particular town?
Well, my family, my mother and my father and step-parents and my sisters all live out in that area. And my kids had grown up and left the nest, and I thought, it'd be nice to be able to spend a few years with my parents while I still have parents to spend time with. So I wanted to go back out there. I was very much drawn to...
You said that in the book.
I was drawn to the area, and I was especially drawn to New Harmony. It was something I was aware of. I knew New Harmony because it was next door to the town where I grew up, but I had never considered living there until I started thinking about coming back. I was definitely pulled there for a reason.
And you grew up there?
In another town near New Harmony, but in the same county.
You felt that you were part of a greater plan when you moved there this time.
I really did. There was a reason for me being pulled there. There were a lot of signs, a lot of things happened. Everything fell into place. Things were falling out of place in Massachusetts for me. Things were getting more difficult. And I kept getting the nudge. Things would happen, like a friend texted me, "Oh, look, there's a house for sale in New Harmony that I think you'd like." Or when I went to visit, my dad took me on one of their historical tours of the town, and I just fell in love with it. I said, this is where I want to go.
That's where you wanted to be. Now, I have earmarked so much here. I have scoured this book. The question is, how could an entire town be haunted? I've seen the Shepherdstown thing on television.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's all legit or not, but this sounds, how do you know a whole town is haunted?
The whole town is haunted. There's, to my knowledge, there's not a building in town that doesn't have something in residence that I've seen. And I think that there's a lot of factors that can cause an area to become haunted, and one of them could just be the history. And I know I love New Harmony, and I never want to leave, so I may end up being one of those ghosts that people say, that's where Joni Mayhan used to live. I think she's still there. But the other factor could be something called ley lines, which are energy cords that circle the world, and they lead pretty much from haunted location to highly spiritual location, like places like Sedona. That's definitely on probably an intersection of ley lines. But New Harmony according to one book I read, does sit on a ley line. So the energy there is so much stronger. It's more of a spiritual vibe, and it pulls in, it enables paranormal activity to be more prevalent.
Is there a river? I saw in one of the shows on television, if there's a body of water that runs through?
Well, there is. The Wabash River it curves right next to New Harmony, so it sits right on the banks.
What, of all the buildings that you've been to, we'll go through a bunch of them, what hit you right between, well, the eyes and your senses when you went in and you went, I know what's going on here?
Oh, the Fauntleroy House. Hands down, the most haunted building in New Harmony.
What was it like?
Well, I definitely, the minute I walk in, I'm clairaudient, so I hear a tone. So if there's a ghost, I hear that sound. And when I walked in there, it was just everywhere. They were coming at me from all different directions, and it was very strong. And the history with that building might have a lot to do with it. It is an original harmonist house. So the first Utopian Society that built the town back in 1814 built that house. So that is a really old house, and it's had a lot of lives moved through it over the years, but a lot of turmoil too.
What's a utopian society?
It's a society where they're trying to create their own heaven on earth. So in the first instance, it was a German Lutheran named George Rapp who came over from Germany with his flock of followers. And he wanted to set up things in a certain specific way, and he really couldn't do it anywhere else. So he wanted to have his own town to be able to do this with. Yeah. And so they were very industrious, pious people. They worked from sunup till sundown. They made a lot of stuff. They produced beer, whiskey, linens, brooms, everything, and they sold them up and down the Ohio River. But all the money went into the town pot. Like, the people were able to live for free, but they had to produce what they needed for the town.
Was it like a 17 or 1800s?
Yeah, 1814 was when they first came to that area, and they cleared the land. And in a 10-year period, they built 800 buildings, and a lot of them are still standing.
They're still there?
Yes.
That's a long time ago.
Yes.
Let me see. Now, this is beautiful. You have listed in your table of contents. Where did I put the? Let's see. I wanted to go right down it. All right. The Chadwick Frederick house. She's got pictures in here. Absolutely great. You have nailed it. I love it because you keep it black and white. Mm-hmm. I love that. The old rooming house. Mm-hmm. Let's go to that one though first. That looks kind of neat.
Well,
Church Street?
Yeah, that's on Church Street, the old rooming house. It's kind of an interesting story because I became friends with the person who owns it when I moved to town, and just through conversation learned that he's my second cousin.
Really?
So, yeah, our grandparents were siblings, and we had no idea. Yeah. So, yeah, the old rooming house. I can't say for sure if it's haunted or not, and I don't know that, even if it were haunted, if Jim would want people to know that. But it's a gorgeous old place that if people come to town, it's somewhere they can stay for very cheap.
When I when I watch Paranormal Lockdown, they have all the great equipment. And you can tell when an anomaly, I'm learning that word, an anomaly comes on, and they have to figure out if they have to debunk it because it could be a fly going by or something like that. They're not fooling around, they have to make sure. Do you take these equipments in with you when you go, or you just walk in?
I do sometimes. It depends on what I'm doing. Most of the time I use my own senses because I am a medium, so I'm able to feel this information and be able to figure things out on my own. But if I do want to investigate, or if I'm bringing other people in with me, we will bring some equipment. But being skeptic is very important in the paranormal field because there are a lot of people out there that call everything paranormal, and we know that it's not. A lot of times there are natural factors that could make the meter go off, or could make things happen in the house that people are attributing to the paranormal world when they shouldn't. So we are very careful.
The Fauntleroy house in 1920. My mother was born in 1921, Dad in 1920. I'm looking at this. What happens over there?
That house is crazy. I do Haunted New Harmony. It has become a business for me as well. I do structured investigations there during the warmer months. Actually, I do have one coming up in February. At the Revere Gymnasium, but
this is going to be out there in Indiana.
Yeah, in Indiana. People that want to come out can come out. There's plenty of nice places to stay in the area. It's a fun town. You can just get out and explore it. It's an intriguing town. Yeah.
Is it quiet like Upton?
Very quiet.
Yeah.
It's quieter than Upton. It's a golf cart community.
It's
so
quieter
people,
than Upton?
people ride golf carts around. Well, population 800.
That's it?
Yeah, and it's set up, it's a tourist town. There's a lot of little shops and places to visit. There's 2 labyrinths that you can walk, like one with a hedge labyrinth with the bushes.
Yeah.
And there's a roofless church. There's
A roofless
a
church?
roofless church. It's for all denominations, and it's a huge courtyard, and then in the middle is like a domed building. But you can, there's a lot of statues in New Harmony, a lot of little secret gardens, and there's a path that goes down to the river that you can walk or take a golf cart down.
How
It's
about
just
cemetery?
beautiful.
How many cemeteries over there?
Well, there are 2 that I know of. One of the cemeteries is the Harmonious Cemetery, which is interesting because they buried their dead in a big area. It's like 2 acres, and it's bricked in all the way around. But there are no headstones because they felt that as they died, they died as they lived, which was part of a community. So there's no markers for any of the graves.
Wait, there's no marker for a loved one's grave? How
No.
can this be?
Well, because that's how they were all part of a community, so no one had any kind of special treatment.
So how would you know where to go?
You just would know that the entire area was part of the cemetery. You wouldn't know.
Did they bury them the way we do with the coffins and all this and that?
I think they probably used like pine coffins, something that would go back to the earth.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How many are in there, do you think?
We're not sure. Probably 100 to 150 at least.
That would be interesting. Did you walk through there?
We do, and as part of my investigations, after we do the Fauntleroy house, which
Yeah.
happens to be right in front of the old Harmonious Cemetery,
Yeah.
I walk them out there, and we walk around inside the cemetery, and it's just a big grassy area. It has a really nice vibe to it. It's amazing. You'd think it would be creepy being a cemetery, but
No.
it's not.
I don't find cemeteries
Yeah.
creepy. I like
Yeah,
them.
yeah. A
I
lot
don't
of
know.
people are that way. They have a lot of history to them.
They do.
That's where we store a lot of our information about people that have passed on. You read their headstones.
Do you ever hear of the group, the Gravestone Girls? We've had them on a couple of
Oh,
times.
okay, yeah.
They go around and they do the markings, or they take the pictures of way back. And I learned a lot about those the skull things and all the different things that come on the old 1700s. The kind of people wonder what they mean, and now you can learn about what they are. We're talking with Joni Mayhan. She's back visiting with us. Haunted New Harmony is her latest paranormal book. Joni, how can they reach you? How can they get your book?
Well, they can find me on my website, jonimayhan.com. All my books are available on amazon.com, or you can contact me at jonimayhan@gmail.com if you're looking for a signed copy. I also have a Facebook author page, so Joni Mayhan Author. You can find me there too.
You can find her there too. She left us. She moved out to Indiana. Were you in Westboro originally?
Yeah, I was, yes,
Yeah, you're Westboro.
for quite a few years.
Of all the places that you went in New Harmony, so far, what has struck you the most paranormal sense that you get when you walk in there? You can feel it.
Well, besides the Fauntleroy House, Community House number 2, they've had a lot of activity. We've actually been seeing a woman in white periodically. People have been seeing her. I've been doing ghost walks there, and one of the people on my ghost walk took a picture of the building and actually saw in the picture later a face looking out through the window. And the building was locked. There was nobody there.
Yeah.
And the same woman has been seen numerous times. She showed up in numerous pictures. She showed up behind a group, a tour.
Yeah.
They had a historical tour coming through, and she walked up behind them, and then she just disappeared.
Did
So
they see it? Did the tour? Did a lot
the
of people
tour
see it?
guide saw it, but the people
That
were
was it.
facing her, and she came up behind them, and then just walked behind a beam and disappeared.
Do you ever do a lockdown, like on Paranormal Lockdown? You ever like 72 hours? Nick Groff and
Yeah.
Katrina staying. That's a lot.
We've stayed extensive periods of time at different locations, but we've not locked ourselves in or anything. You know, we want to be able to get out.
I think Katrina and Nick have actually slept in, in the
Yeah.
morgue. They can pull out the
Yeah.
the cabinet there.
Well, Waverly Hills Sanatorium
Yes.
in Louisville, Kentucky,
Yep.
you can do that as well.
What's the one that has the body chute?
That's Waverly Hills.
That big one. That was for people with TB originally, wasn't it?
Yes, I'm going there next year.
You're going to go.
Well, I've already been once,
Yeah.
and I'm going back again next
You've
year.
been there. Because when I watched that one, it's fascinating because I think Nick tried to sleep in the body chute, and now that's on a tilt.
Yeah, it is.
That's got to be difficult. But
Yeah.
they've got that thing that lights up. Could be anything that walks by.
Right.
If he's asleep, it lights up.
I saw that episode.
What do you think about the the gadget that you can ask a question, and if the spirit can't come and talk, say it out loud, you can't hear anything physically, it comes up, it's typed. It communicates. What do you think? Is that legit?
I think so. That's an obvious. They are very accurate, but I think you always have to also take a measure of skepticism, make sure it's something that's relevant and makes sense.
Yeah.
I've seen people react to those, and it takes them in a direction that's completely different. I always say to people, be conscious of what you're feeling, and your body is your best piece of equipment.
Yeah. Now, these are all from New Harmony, Indiana. Do you have another step coming up for New Harmony? Something else planned?
Well, this next year I'm doing more investigations there, public hunts and ghost walks, and that'll be a lot of fun. I don't know, there may be a haunted New Harmony too, I'm not sure. There's a lot of buildings that I didn't get to. I mean, there's only, like a dozen in that book, and there's, a lot of buildings that I haven't covered yet.
You said you teach too? You have classes?
I do. I teach Paranormal 101 classes there.
Now, did you do that out here too?
I did. Actually,
so.
I'm teaching one tonight in Gardner, so when I come back, I teach them here.
Up at the Gardner, the haunted house in Gardner?
No, I teach them at Terrapin Traders, which is a small store in Gardner.
Was that your first experience at the Gardner house there?
I had some experiences prior to that, but I spent 3 years at the Victorian, actively investigating it. And my friends lived there. My friends were caretakers, so I was there a lot.
What's the episode on Paranormal where they actually, Nick was in this crawl space in the basement, and they found real bones, and they had to bring the police in.
Right, yeah.
They sensed something, but they're going back. They're going to do a second episode on this, but that really fascinated me. First I thought, oh, come on, somebody put the bones there. But then I went, I don't think so, because if they're bringing the police in on this, I don't think the police have time to horse around. So there's got to be something to this. There's a lot of mysteries out there.
There are. Well, and a lot of things were covered up back in those days. There weren't as many forensic science as applications as there are now. It would have been easier to cover up a death.
Yeah.
So burying them in the basement or in the...
Yeah, bury them in the basement.
Well, yeah. I mean, Bones in the Basement is about the Victorian, and they did find bones in the basement.
And that's one of the ones that you have written about.
Yes.
Bones in the Basement. That was the title of one of your books.
Right.
What was the title? I forget it right now. The one about when you actually left and the thing left with you.
That probably was Ghost Magnet. I had a lot of stories in there. We went to Gettysburg, and something really nasty followed me home.
Yeah.
And the stories, a lot of my different paranormal encounters, that were pretty fascinating. And my friend Sandy, who's with me today, is in a lot of those stories. We went through a lot of this together.
Yeah.
You can't. Some of this stuff is so crazy.
Well, I know you mentioned that you'd try to go to bed at night, and you'd see this apparition or whatever. Didn't it kind of crawl across your wall or hang out in different spaces in your bedroom?
Yeah, I could always feel it. It was always different. One night it did come racing in through my door, and I woke up to see a dark shadow run across my room and into my closet, and I wasn't sure if it was a real person that had broken into my house and was hiding in my closet, or if it was a ghost.
Yeah.
So I went flying out of my bed, and I got out to the doorway, and I shut the door, and I stood there, and I'm like, well, who do I call? I call the police, and there's nobody there. It's a ghost. They're going to laugh at me.
Yeah.
You know? And so I stood there for a minute, and then all of a sudden something started scratching on the other side of the door, and I nearly came unglued until I realized it was my dog.
Yeah.
And then when I realized it was my dog, then I realized that it was paranormal, because if a man were in my closet, my dog would have been having, a reaction to that.
And you went through so much to get rid of that entity. Did you contact our Tom D'Agostino, who's in this area?
No. I have met Tom.
Yeah.
He actually wrote the foreword for Bones in the Basement.
Yeah, he was on WBZ Radio the other night.
Was he? Yeah.
I listened a little late at night to the talk shows, and I went, I know Tom.
Yeah.
He also has a feature in the Blackstone Valley Express.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that one. And he always has a feature in that, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, whatever you do, I'm fascinated. And I don't know how many you did, but in this book, how many places had you investigated?
I think that one's at least a dozen. I forget how many are in there. Quite a few. And there were some that didn't want their names published because they were worried it would be bad for business. But it's been good for the businesses that have allowed me to use their names. People have been going in looking for the ghosts.
A bird bath in the gardens behind Lowry Hollow. Did you tell us if you experienced anything near the bird baths? The water.
I didn't, but Lowry Hollow is a really fascinating building. It's an old train depot that has been moved several times, and it's a gift shop now. It's a lovely gift shop, but people have experienced some interesting things in the basement. The lights keep going on and off. Like they will know they turned them off, and they'll come back on, and just a sense that somebody's watching you sometimes.
So you're going back to Waverly Hills.
I am.
And where is that again?
That's in Louisville, Kentucky.
Is that the one that has the room 502?
Yes.
Where a nurse hung herself, or they made it look like it. We're not sure, right?
Yeah.
And something else, somebody jumped out or was pushed out of the window in that room.
I believe so, yeah.
What do you think happened? Pushed or jumped?
I don't know. It's been so many years since I've been there. I'll have to feel it out and see what I feel.
I know that one of the investigations, it was, I think, at a jail. They go all over the lot. And the hangman's noose, because back in the old days, they hung, you know. And it was just standing still. And then there was no air in the room, no breeze. And they had asked something.
And it started moving.
Yeah.
We've had that happen. Actually, in New Harmony, at Community House number 2, the ghosts were not reacting to our electronic devices, which we thought maybe, they're not, 1,800 ghosts.
Yeah.
So we brought a pinwheel out, and just a dollar store pinwheel, and put it in a cup, put it in the middle of the room, and the group was asking it to move if they're, for questions, and there was no draft or anything, and that thing would spin. They'd say, is there anybody here who wants to communicate with us? And it would spin, and then it would stop. And they'd say, are you a boy? And it would spin, and it would stop. And they were having a long, lengthy question and answer session with the pinwheel moving.
And it worked.
And it worked. That was crazy.
Now, you're going to go back to Waverly. Is that the one that has the body chute?
Yeah.
And is that it has the morgue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not afraid of that type of thing. I don't know if I'd want to spend the night inside one of those morgue trays. Just because of the dirt,
right?
Maybe, but I don't know. Are you going to stay overnight there?
We are going to spend the night, but not in the morgue. I don't think they let people sleep there. Just for special TV shows. There's another area in the building that they allow people to bring air mattresses, I believe.
I think there's an operating room too that I saw them go into.
There is, yeah.
They were able to connect with somebody in that operating room area. That I remember. Now, is there a sequel, or is there something else coming?
I'm not sure. I could possibly write a Haunted New Harmony 2 to cover some of the books, some of the locations that I didn't get to for that one. But there's a lot there, and most of these are places people can go and visit and see if they can find the ghosts themselves.
Can they go, before they go physically to investigate, can they check this out online, look at some of the things inside of it, read about it?
Oh, absolutely.
Again, how can people get...
It's available on Amazon.com, or you can contact me at jonimayhan@gmail.com.
Haunted New Harmony. Now, if you go downstairs, I don't know if I wrote to you about this, but the last time you were on, I'm trying to remember, this is awful, there's been so many good ones. What was the last book before this?
I believe it was
it
Ghost Magnet, maybe, or Signs of Spirits.
Was one of them. I remember I loved Bones in the Basement.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ones, we have a dedicated authors wall in the Upton Library. And I would say the majority of all authors on there have appeared on Be My Guest. And, of course, the latest one that was up there by you can tell that a bunch of people had taken it out because the sides were all kind of like this. It had been very well read.
Okay.
So people are listening. They really are.
Good.
I would imagine here in Upton, you would, like even Joni, when she comes in here to the our Upton Town Library, which is a very old building, was a church at one time, you can sense, and you've told me, it's the presence of an elderly lady. Perhaps she taught Sunday school.
She wasn't elderly. She's been here for a long time, but I see her as a younger woman.
Younger woman.
Right.
With the church?
I believe so. I believe, she was been here when it was a church.
Yeah.
So.
Because I imagine a lot of these older buildings can tell a real story.
Right.
I think the one next door that has the X on it, because there's no one there, but it looks... I bet you if you walk in there, maybe the amount of tenants who have been in there through the whatever it was, I look at that and I think, I wonder what would happen if I went in there. If I'm the receptive type to it, I love the topic, I don't know if I'd be receptive. Mm-hmm. How does a person know?
You just pay attention to the way you feel. A lot of times, if there's something paranormal, a lot of times you'll feel like you're being watched.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one. Paying attention to temperature changes.
The cold, I read. Yeah, cold.
Yeah,
right?
when you get really cold. Sometimes you'll get really hot. Most of the time, it's cold spots.
Do you believe in the? One of them can scratch or push you. Can you believe in that part?
Yeah, I think that happens. Yeah,
You really
definitely.
do. I know their cameraman on Paranormal Lockdown had to leave. He couldn't take it. It had literally his back.
Yeah.
And I thought, this guy seems pretty on the up and up to me for him to really leave. He said, I got to get out of here, and just leaves.
And that's usually the best thing to do if you're overwhelmed by the energy at a location, is to just remove yourself from that location, go outside, and ground yourself, find a good tree and lean against it, and that helps calm you down and get you back to normal.
Any asylums, abandoned asylums out that way where you are in Indiana?
There probably are. I haven't really got to explore too many. I haven't been too intrigued by New Harmony.
Yeah, around your area.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that would be kind of fun next.
Yeah.
I don't know if the word is fun, but interesting, right?
Yeah. I think my next book, I want to get back to fiction. I do write fiction, and that's where my true love with writing resides. So I may go into pursuing a couple different thoughts.
Will it be paranormal?
Oh, of course. It'll have to have some paranormal in it. That's just what
you're leaving us tomorrow, right?
I am flying back to Indiana tomorrow.
When did you get here?
I got here, I don't know, a Saturday morning at 2 a.m.
Oh!
So it's a quick trip, but...
You flew into Logan, right?
No, I flew into Providence.
Oh, Green Airport.
Yeah.
You flew to Green.
Yeah.
Is it less stressful over Green? I've heard it is.
It is. It's a smaller airport. I like it. And I flew from Nashville. So I drove down to Nashville, Tennessee, which is a neat airport, too.
Yeah, so you came up through Green, then you were met by your friend and brought up here, right?
Yeah, my son picked me up at the airport.
Your son picked you up.
Not too many people pick you up at the airport at 2 a.m.
No.
Sons have to.
Is your son interested?
No, not really. Neither of my kids are really that. They're both engineers, so they're much more scientific minded. I think they're open to it, but they're not interested in it.
I think of my son, and he's just kooky.
Yeah.
Not that this is kooky, but my kooky means very open to things that the other kids might laugh at him about. Not me. I wouldn't laugh at him because I think this is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Going in a little skeptic when I'm watching it on TV. Some of the shows I think are just entertainment.
Absolutely.
But the one with Nick Groff and Katrina, that I see two serious people.
Yeah.
As you said, they seem very professional.
Mm-hmm.
We hate to say goodbye to Joni, man. Joni, when are you going to be back in the area?
April, I'm going to do Salem Con, which is a Salem Paranormal Convention, and that's in April.
April, do you know the date?
I don't remember the date, but it's mid-April. I'm going to be there. I'll have a booth with my friend and fellow author Sam Baltrusis.
Are you going to come just before it? Because how would I squeeze? I'm trying to think how we'd get you on to let everybody know about it. When are you going to arrive in the area?
I'm not sure. I'll figure it out, and I'll let you know in advance.
So we can get the word out more.
Yeah,
we can talk more about haunted New Harmony. And New Harmony is the town in Indiana that stole her from us. She's gone. I just start to get interested in this and all this, and then poof.
But I come back. You notice that?
Better.
Yeah, I am.
She's got to come back. Joni, thanks so much again.
Thank
Haunted
you.
New Harmony. Don't miss it. All about all these places in New Harmony, Indiana, where she's living. And then you're going to be going down to Waverly Hills, down south. When are you going?
Sometime next year, I'm not sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. Stay away from that body shoot. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll see you next time and be my guest.